And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to It's Time to Excel, where we get to inspire and ignite all the possibilities that are all around us, especially when it comes to money management. And I'm so blessed and honored here to have my friend Ruth, and I almost missed Levy. I'm going to get it right. I will get it right tomorrow, but that's okay. As we're going. I just asked too, but it's all good. And she's with 365 Financial Care. And here's the cool thing is we found that we have a lot of similarities when we started talking and kind of working our way through it. And now we've kind of partnered up on QuickBooks. You guys all know where I stand on QuickBooks. So having an opportunity to really master that system. But she does this a lot for folks that just can't get to there, especially a lot of the older. You have a lot of older clients, I think. You do it on the personal end. I tend to do it more on the business end. And we've realized that a lot of the similarities are right there. And you have some really cool things kind of going on in your life right now. So I'm so glad that you chose to join us today. And I'm looking forward to you to introduce yourself to our audience here, as well as we're going to kind of have some fun and kind of bounce back and forth about maybe taming some of those paper mounds, paper messes, paper scraps, paper all kinds of different things that are out there, and just kind of be starting to think and get our audience thinking about what they need to be thinking about, so that just like I was talking about a budget, we spent all last month talking about a budget because it's just a 4-letter word. It's a plan. That's exactly what a budget is. It's planning. And that's exactly what we're going to kind of think about as we're talking through. So Ruth, please introduce yourself to our guests. Let them know who you are. And we'll jump on in here and see what trouble we can cause today.
Janet, I really appreciate you inviting me to join you today. And I am here in Chicago. And my business is 11 years old. It started with...
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I should have asked that question. Very cool. So you've been doing this a long time.
I have. I started doing this really kind of by chance for my mother. She followed her home. She never came back home, quite honestly. It's a long story, but I assumed all of the financial responsibilities, all the tasks. I was her power of attorney for property, which I had no idea what that meant.
And that's overwhelming. And I think that's what happens, especially when we start talking, it gets so overwhelming. You don't even know where to start.
You know, it can be. And luckily, I had a lot of different experiences with paperwork and business management before this. So it really did prime me for taking this new step.
It's challenging. I know, because a lot of times, especially in the generations like parents' age, and my parents were much older. They were married 20 years before they had me. So we missed a generation in there. And organization on paperwork, they squirreled things away. And I didn't even know really what all they had. I struggled with that when I tried to help out and kind of jump in and figure out where things were at. And I know what I just didn't know. But I didn't even know what to go look for either. So what kind of tips can you give? And I know that's something that you really work with, because there's some certain key documents and there's certain key things to be considering that will do this while your loved one is still around to kind of help point you in a direction. Because that's a huge difference, where they still have the capacity to guide you.
So you can break it out into 3 main categories.
Okay.
I think that the first category are what I call your key documents. Okay. And those are firebox forevers, or what I'm calling now the go bag. These are So they are handled by, ideally, that you put them in a fireproof, waterproof container. Like a case, almost like a suitcase. You can get them on Amazon, because if your house catches on fire or there's a flood, you've got everything together.
Yeah, and that happens. Things happen. Life happens
all the time. More often than we want to know. And these are things, in there I'd put original birth certificate, marriage certificate, death certificates, car titles. All those kinds of things that they always want the original. So I even, and I would even put in, going into other things, the second category is like estate planning documents, your originals, everything. Original.
And I guess that, and some of those, that's going to be called your wills, your power of attorneys, I know like a lot of times we struggled with having that power of attorney, and getting all that information. We even ran into an issue, and you got to look with the states when we moved. You've got to update power of attorneys. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even think about that. We moved from Pennsylvania. My parents didn't, but we did. And guess what? Now all of a sudden we had to redo a bunch of this.
Wow. Yeah.
And little things like that tend to be a little bit challenging because you're not even thinking about it.
They will trip you up and slow you down, especially as people, their cognition goes and their memory goes.
And that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these key documents, okay, what about the digital world? How does that play into this mess of things? Because is a digital an original copy?
The digital world just complicates things because we are not in paper only and we are not in digital only. We're in both. But so I would say it's probably good to scan any original document. But
okay.
even then, Janet, a digital is not going to cut it.
Oh.
Not usually. When they want the original, they want to see that ink. They want to see the
interesting. And that's frustrating.
It is. And, it's so easy to say, I'll get to it later. Oh, it's no big deal. But it really, if you can take the time to at least get all your key documents together and keep them in a safe place, really safe place, but like an accessible place, your life will get a lot simpler.
And that's good to think about. As I said, when you have the loved ones and how often it's after the fact is when you're trying to pull it out. Mm-hmm. And trying to figure it out, and you don't even know what to chase down.
Yeah. And, so one of the things I have is a list of key documents. I'm working on a book one of these days. Hopefully soon it will be finished. And it also explains like how long to store things for. But key documents, just know you want to save them forever.
Okay. And some of those key documents include those original birth certificates, power of attorneys, wills, I would assume.
Wills, trusts, marriage certificate, divorce decrees, because I'll give you an interesting story.
Yeah.
There are some Social Security will pay on an ex-spouse if you have been married for 10 years. Sometimes it feels like it's way longer than 10 years, but the divorce decree is the actual date that they use. And there was one gentleman who thought he was only married for 9 years, but it turns out he was married for 10 based on the decree. So he was able to collect Social Security based on his ex-spouse.
Interesting.
So, I like to say this too. There is gold in them there hills. This is not just about pushing papers or being persnickety. It's because there is a bigger goal in this whole scenario. And that's what you want to think about it's about saving money, saving time, saving energy and sanity. And maybe even making money, protecting yourself from predators, different kinds of predatory marketing and something with your property. You also want to have your original deeds in this go bag.
Aha. Okay. So there's a go bag for the papers.
Absolutely. So this is something you take with you. You also have your insurance papers. I even keep my checkbook in my go bag.
Okay. That makes sense.
Passport ID, so it all fits in. It looks like a little suitcase.
Or a big one, depending.
How the idea came across to me was, first of all, I had a really great firebox I still have. It's about 40 pounds, but I thought, what will happen if I have to grab my cat in one hand and my firebox in the other when I run down the stairs? I mean, I just can't do it. So let's talk. Yeah.
So you got something out on Amazon, you said, and you just it's like a suitcase.
Yeah.
Basically.
Do you want me to show it to you?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. Okay, hang on one second.
And keeping it accessible is also another thing that's handy. Look at that.
Yeah. You can even get it so it looks like more like a big pouch. I mean, they have a variety of different styles, but this is the one that I chose. And I know this is like I'm really hands-on, and I believe that like you solve so many more issues when you do stuff hands-on than when you do stuff. So
there you go.
I have my passport here. There's also there's dividers. What I also did was I actually have a binder in here where I have a lot of these documents. So
that makes sense, keeping it very simple. And this is stuff we could do even, you don't think about at our age a lot of times, that something could happen, but something could happen tomorrow. Tomorrow's not promised.
Sadly, it happens all the time. And this is kind of like your insurance that it won't happen.
There you go. There you go. And that's something so simple. So I appreciate you sharing, because that is something that's simplistic. And you got everything right there.
And it took some time to put together, but part of what I do in my coursework and working with clients is we do this methodically. My theory is like, if you do 20 minutes a day, every day, you will get an amazing amount of stuff done.
That's true.
Time.
And a lot of times, and that's what I encourage folks when we're doing QuickBooks, they're like, oh, I just don't have, I don't have 6 hours to sit down and do it. Well, don't wait till the end of the month or the end of the quarter to do it. How about we do once a week to start with, and do half an hour and see how much you get done there. Maybe at the end of the month, we might add an extra half an hour on there. That's an hour. Is your business not worth it? Is your personal life, is your sanity not worth it? Of course it is. Of course it is.
And you know what? One thing I also realized is if you do a little bit at a time, if you've made a mistake or gone in the wrong direction, it's so much easier to course correct than if you've invested a huge amount of time and energy on something only to find out you didn't need to do it, or you did it wrong.
Something's missing. And I think that's one thing too. I think one thing I had gone down through is like, even like the 401k or the insurance policies and stuff, how often you pick up these little incidental insurance policies that, does everybody even know about it? Because I know sometimes I've picked up 1,000 here, or, they give you those little, if you're a credit union member, or a lot of times they'll give you a little bit of $1,000 towards it because they want you to get additional, but they give you it, it's being a member there. How many people have those? I mean, both my husband and I have gotten those offered to us just from being a member at, say, a credit union or one of the banks. It was their way of offering a little bit of life insurance in the hopes, of course, that you're going to get more, but they pay the first 1,000 per. How often does that happen? I'm guessing probably more often than not, or little things of that nature that you don't even realize. And even maybe a list of the credit cards too, because if something does happen, you may need to cancel them. That would probably be something also on that list to consider.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with insurance, but as long, part of it too is like that could go in the go bag. It's like have all your insurance contracts together so you can really see what you have. We run after making more money and more of this. And so somehow, if you don't know what you have, you don't really know where you really
what you have.
Yeah.
You have no idea. You don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge too. And, there's all different kinds of things that are out there. So what is that? So if I start working with you, what are some of the things, what kind of steps, or what kind of, what can I look forward to getting organized? What's my ultimate outcome working with you?
Well, your ultimate outcome is, first of all, your peace of mind and feeling mastery around your financial life, because let's face it, your financial life affects everything else in your life.
Exactly.
So, we will definitely look at your goals. We'll look at, what you want to see happen in the next year, in the next 5 years. What are the challenges? Do you have debt? What do we need to do? How do we need to handle that? Do you have property? Are you getting all your property tax exemptions? I mean, of course, I know I'm kind of like splashing all this on you at one time, but really in a methodical way. In fact, I'm putting together a little free gift on my website. Should be up in about a week.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
There's your website. Everyone go check it out.
Yes. And it's going to be like the year quarter by quarter, and little projects to do every month, and different deadlines that tax deadlines especially, so that you can actually get through things without a lot of pain over the course of a year.
And that makes sense. So as you said, little by little, step by step, And I always encourage folks, we got to start where you're at. We've got to start where you're at, and we'll get where we need to go. Just
Yep.
got to keep your eye going. And that's what I always tell people, like how often, if you don't know and you don't manage your money, whether it's on your business side, whether it's on your personal side, because let's face facts, your business and your personal, they mirror each other. So if you're strong in that area, great. If you're not, which is most entrepreneurs, then you know what? Let's surround ourselves and get strengths and work together to make sure that we've got that, because they do mirror. So if there's systems that we can set up, and systems are the key. And I think that's kind of where you're going, a system.
Yes.
And I always use the acronym, save yourself time, energy, and money, which is system, because that's exactly what it's going to do for you. It is going to save you time, energy, and money.
I
And
love
as
that.
Yep, that we use that quite a bit. Save yourself time, energy, and money. Get that
Yes.
good system in place. And that's what we want to do, is we want to get this system in place. This is for your business. This is for your personal. They do got to mirror each other. So there should be a binder for your business. There should be a binder for your personal side. And because there's different insurances differential, there's different documentation, there's different, account numbers, all of that kind of craziness that go, whether it's business or personal, it doesn't matter. It's still got to be in that go bag. It's
Right.
got to be there and have somewhat of an organization to it.
Yeah. And to your point, Janet, I mean, one of the things I'm sure you talk about with your clients a lot is separating your personal from your business. That is like super duper important.
Yep. They're a mirror. I'm good with that, but it's a mirror. They're not commingled. It's a mirror.
Yes, there is no line.
And it is very strong and is very straight down. And I think that makes a difference. And I encourage folks, and I'm like, that's one of my biggest squirrels that, when we start talking about chasing the squirrels, and I have a lot of fun with, talking about Winston, trying to take him for that WALK, which if I say that word, we will be going now. Because that's just his thing. He gets all excited, but he's crazy. He's a puppy. So he's nuts, but he's constantly doing circles and chasing and going. And that's exactly what business owners do. But if you do it as a business owner, you're probably going to do it on your personal side too. You're going to chase so many squirrels that you never get around to getting this in order. And yet this is the foundation of everything else.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? I would say definitely. This is the foundation, is we've got to get that solid foundation in place, because if not, when the storms come, when anything rocks that world, it's going to crumble. But if you have a strong foundation, you can withstand it.
Yeah.
Because you've taken the time to plan, you've taken the time. So those key documents, and digitizing is a good way, but you can get lost. I don't know. Has anybody ever filed something in a computer and have no idea where to find it?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, is to develop a protocol, a naming protocol for all your digital files. And, you can also spend a lot of money just creating. I have one client, and she's a web designer. So she saves huge amounts of web documents. And
Sure.
as she went through this process, she really just winnowed down all her files, and she saved herself a lot of money because of all the web stores she was purchasing year by year. She saved herself like $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was remarkable. And, yeah.
Organization. I mean, and that's the key, is the whole idea is so that you can get your information. That's what I always say with QuickBooks. Why am I spending all this time up front? What is the reason? Because you want those reports.
Yep.
You can't get the reports if you don't put the numbers in garbage out. I'm notorious for saying that. Garbage in, garbage out. So you decide where you want to go, but I don't want garbage out. I want to so it's much worth it. And I know working with me, I always tell folks right up front, we're going to put some more time up front. We're going to do a couple extra steps up front. But in the back end, pick out the binder and go, and you're done.
Yep. It's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, part of what we're talking about too is like this idea of quantitative versus qualitative. It's not like how much you have, but what is the quality of what you have? And, people like, as I was sharing with you before, how one of the key reasons how I really saw the power of paperwork was I was an academic. I was the campus director of a college, and we wanted to get accredited. And we went through each professor's folder, and we realized certain things were missing. And the amount of time it took, we had to photocopy this and gather that. It had not been done in a systematic way. And it was the difference between, yes, we'd get accredited and no, we wouldn't. So, and it's a quick fix. And, we can be as qualitative as we want. We can be as creative as we want. And I actually feel, even though we're in the business world and we're number crunchers, Jan, I feel like we're totally creative.
Oh, absolutely. Because you've got to play. I always talk about I play my square box. I understand that. But my box never has square corners.
Yep. I'm not saying creating numbers, but like how we do things in the process. We discover how to
the workflow.
Yep.
And there's different ways to get around stuff, sometimes I'll get, and we'll go around and around a lot of times with some of the clients. Well, I want to do this. Well, okay, we got some limitations here, but we can get this far, and what can we use that's already at our fingertips to make life easier? Mm-hmm. What can we do? And sometimes it's often I combine QuickBooks and Microsoft Excel together to get to where I want to go. Nice. Because certain things are easier in Excel, but certain things, but I got to start with somewhere with the bulk of everything into the financial to get the reports. But sometimes I may want to take those a little differently. And depending on what version you have, it depends on what, how much reporting you got. But there's always ways to work through it. Sometimes you just got to step back and get out of the weeds. And I think that's where a lot of my clients struggle is that's overwhelming. They glaze over.
And then the beauty of it is they see the trends of what's really going on with their business. They see,
and that's huge.
Huge. Where are their customers? Where are they making the most money? What's working? What's not? Mm-hmm. How can they tweak things?
Yeah, exactly. And how do you get to there? You've got to have the paperwork in line. You've got to have all of this organized in some fashion that it makes sense to be able to make good business decisions. And that's what I always loved about QuickBooks is the fact is that it's the reporting. That's the whole benefit of if you're going to invest in a software, invest in one that's going to give you decent reports. Now, is any system perfect? No, we aren't either. But you use the strengths what it's worth. And that's one of the times I've found, like a lot of times in QuickBooks, if I have a specific trades or something of that nature, QuickBooks may not get the details they want, but there's usually a software that will. But when they start talking to each other, now you're blending the best of the world. You're taking the strengths, just like we surround ourselves. You want to surround yourself with folks that have different strengths so that together you all rise. Same kind of a thing with your systems. Let's figure out what system works. And you can whack a system all day long. I always say whack an app because there's an app for everything. And a lot of times it can get really overwhelming. But I think what you're saying is we take it back to the simplistic. We start there and build up from there.
And, I will say there's also a real psychological component here. I follow a lot of different money gurus or people who marry the psychological and, what's going on with me and like, what are my issues with money and all of that. But you know what? You can think about it all you want, but when you start actually doing it, I think that's where you really start to see what's going on and you start to really conquer some of these issues. If you don't look and you hide from money mistakes or your numbers, it's very hard to get past it.
True. That's true.
I mean, I certainly, we all make, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I think we've all made some kind of financial mistake.
Yeah.
And that's how we learn. And so it's important, like when I look at the paperwork that I get and I say, like, let me read this thoroughly. I might need to read it 3 times out loud until I really get what the paperwork's trying to tell me. But this is how we learn. And, instead of being, hiding out, it takes a lot of courage sometimes to really look at papers.
Right. And just to look at money in general. I know that's probably one of the biggest hesitations, for lack of a better word, or biggest challenges is like they feel that we're going to be judgmental. I mean, they're just numbers to me. I mean, coming from a corporate background, like they were just numbers. People, and I led up the payroll department for quite a few years. I couldn't tell you specifics. I just knew in general because to me, they were just numbers, and when you can take some of the emotion out of everything else, now you can start making good decisions. Because emotional decisions don't tend to always lead in the best answer.
Yeah.
But if you can get a really good information, so you got to have that base. You got to know what you got to know what you got to know where you need to go or what you're missing or what is working. As you said, you brought that up beautifully because it's what's working, what's not working. What do you have? What don't you have? And as you start putting this stuff together and you start creating this go bag and you start figuring out what you have, you're going to start seeing holes of what you don't have.
Yeah. I
And
found
then,
like 5 copies of my birth certificate. There's one original, there were like 5 copies. I mean, it was like, where did these come from? But then there was also like these beautiful telegrams that had been sent when I was born. I mean, you just, a lot of things come up that you don't know, or you may know, and that's why you don't want to do it. But it is, in the long run, it will serve you.
absolutely.
I think.
And make it easier on the backside.
Absolutely, yes.
And especially when your loved one, let's face facts, if you're trying to care for a loved one, the last thing you want to be worrying about is where in the world the paper is to be able to get the benefits that they deserve.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the biggest challenges, is to try to figure all of that out. The last thing you want to do is you want to care for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't care for them if you're chasing things because now you're exhausted, going crazy, trying to pull your hair out to find stuff.
Yeah.
That if we take the time now, just a little bit every day. Even if you have 20 minutes, start with 5. Start somewhere.
I mean, people can contact me. They can schedule a 30-minute consultation with me.
Awesome.
Yeah, there is no, as they say, there is no shame in this game. It's like, let's just get started wherever you're at, wherever your loved one is at. I am happy to hear where you're at.
Perfect. That is awesome. And I appreciate that. Guys, take advantage of this. Go straight out to her website. It's right there for you. And I bet, can they go ahead and book it right from your website there? There's a little link there, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, just so you know, my website is under reconstruction. So
cool.
By the time people
It's
see
exciting.
this, we'll have things like much more together. But you can always email me at ruth@365financialcare.com. There's always a way to reach me. So please don't
Perfect.
hesitate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ruth. This has been such a pleasure to kind of just have a chance to kind of educate our folks, because this whole purpose of this show is very simple. It's to inspire and ignite the possibilities because there's so many out there and it does take a village. It really does take a village. And by focusing on that, and I'm so grateful that we've gotten a chance to partner together. And guys, please take advantage of it. Go out to 365financialcare.com. Take full advantage of the extra special gift. Book 30 minutes. Get to know her a little bit better and let her help you maybe figure out what you can do to get to a point where you have your paperwork and that foundation under you so that no matter what comes your way, you are ready to face it. And you're not scrambling, pulling your hair out because you just don't know what you don't know. So any last minute thoughts before we close up for today?
Well, I'm going to be really corny.
Go for it.
Just how can you get your ducks in a row?
There you go.
Yeah, let's start there and see where it goes from there. And Jen, I want to thank you for this opportunity to connect with you and connect with your audience. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Take care and have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you here next week on It's Time